Let's go.
All right, Terry, you ready?
Ready.
Let's kick off.
Okay. This meeting is being conducted virtually and in person, so I will do a roll call of the trustees to confirm attendance. Mr. Knox,
I'm here.
Mr. Santos,
Present.
Ms. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Sanchez,
Present.
Mr. Moore,
Here.
Mr. Kehoe,
Present.
Mr. Robbins,
Present.
Ms. Greenwood, Mr. Pryor, Mr. Harris,
Present.
Chair Bernstein.
Here.
Staff participating in the meeting include CEO Santos Kryman, Deputy CEO Louis Lugo, AEOs JJ Popowich and Laura Guglielmo, Chief Counsel Stephen Rice, other staff participating Bob Schlottfeld, Kathy Delano, Bernie Buenaflor, Ted Granger. Trustees, please use the raise your hand Zoom option to be placed in queue. At this time, we ask all meeting participants to mute your mics until you are ready to speak, and we may now proceed with the agenda.
Thank you very much, Terry. Before we get to the approval of the minutes, I'm going to make some suggestions for the agenda if it's agreeable to people. First of all, for our non-consent item 3A, which is a discussion of implementation for the full board of the AB 2449 teleconference. When we get to it, I'm going to suggest that we consider not hearing the item here, but simply just passing along a referral to the full board in January to hear the item and get full board input, because I don't see how we can't get full board input on that. And I don't know that we need to hear it twice. And then Louis, which report are we keeping?
Chair Bernstein, if we can keep report B and then file and receive report C and D.
Okay, so we're going to hear 4B and 4C and 4D are going to become for information only. So when the time comes, if people want to pull them for questions, they can. But if there's no need, we'll just be hearing 4B today. So if that's agreeable to everyone, we will move forward. Great. The item now is approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of November 2nd.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Knox, seconded by Sanchez. Terry, roll call, please.
Mr. Knox.
Aye.
Mr. Santos,
Yes.
Mr. Sanchez,
Aye.
Chair Bernstein.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. For item 2, I'm not aware of any slips from the public or people here,
I have nothing.
so we will skip over it. For 3A, I will make the motion that we refer this item onto the full board for the January meeting to be agendized for discussion and consideration.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Santos?
Yes, I have a suggestion and perhaps a question at the same time with regards to your motion, in that I would like to include in your motion, and if I have to, I will make a substitute motion to that effect, that what this matter is submitted to the board for evaluation and implementation of the law, that the staff will include any accommodation for trustees who will have to travel like 3 hours for those meetings. We have precedent here that when we have offsites and when we have, like when we hired the CEOs in the past, we have made accommodations in the hotel. So we have elections next year, and we never know who's going to get elected. It could be somebody who lives in San Diego or somewhere else, and irrespective of where the individual lives, as long as LACERA should be obligated to accommodate the trustees in order for them to fully participate, given the restrictions that the new law places on all the limitations on how many teleconferences you can, I believe it's 2, if I remember correctly. Anyway, there's some limitations. Everybody knows the limitations. And so therefore, that will be, I will make a substitute motion to that effect.
I'm not sure I understand your motion. If you could restate it, I would appreciate that.
That when this item is submitted to the to the board for full evaluation and decision to implement the law, that the staff include any provisions in there to accommodate any trustee who will have to travel over 2 hours to attend the meeting.
Okay, I mean, I don't see that as being in opposition to the existing motion. Staff can certainly inform on that as part of the original motion. So I'm not sure it's necessary to amend the motion, sir, but if you didn't feel that it was included in the motion, I'm happy to state that providing that information is part of the motion, if Mr. Knox is okay with that.
I guess just a question for clarity. You know, when it comes to the board, that could be something that could be evaluated, discussed, and decided upon that time. I wouldn't want it perceived to be, based on my motion, that that's a recommendation coming out of this committee.
And I didn't hear Mr. Santos's comments as a recommendation. I heard it as a request for information. So, Mr. Santos, I'll throw it back to you.
No, I agree with you, Mr. Chair, that if the direction to the staff is as stated by you, I have no objection to your motion to move this matter forward to the board for full consideration, including the ability and or discussion to accommodate trustees who will have to travel over 2 hours to make an 8 o'clock meeting.
Did you have a question, Mr. Kryman?
No, we can, I'm sorry, we can certainly accommodate and provide the information requested.
And again, Mr. Knox, this is not a recommendation. It's just a request that it
Yeah.
be clarified as part of the staff report, which I'm fine with. Are you okay with that as a secondary
Yeah,
of the motion?
understood.
Okay, Mr. Kehoe.
Thank you. This comment is directed mainly towards staff in regards to this item being agendized at the Operations Oversight Committee. The Operations Oversight Committee, the focus, my understanding, is about the operations of LACERA. So it's a staff-focused committee, not a board-focused committee. This is entirely a board governance issue. And I don't think that board governance issues should go to the Operations Oversight Committee. I think board governance issues should go to the individual boards. So this should have went directly to the board. Or if it's something that affects both boards, to the Joint Operational Governance Committee. But the Operations Oversight Committee is a staff-focused and a member service-focused thing. So I am very much in support of this motion of taking it straight to the board, full board for discussion. And I think in the future, we should make sure that things that go to the Operations Oversight Committee are not board governance issues. Thank you.
Terry, would you take roll call, please?
Mr. Knox,
Aye.
Mr. Santos,
Yes.
Mr. Sanchez,
Aye.
Chair Bernstein.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We're on to reports. Report A is an FYI on LACERA operations briefing. Are there any questions or comments from the committee or from the other board members before we move on? Okay, then we do have a fiscal year 2022-23 hiring plan report, and I will throw it over to Ms. Guglielmo, who is online, if I remember.
Sorry about that. Good afternoon, Chair Bernstein and members of the committee and fellow trustees. Before you is the hiring plan developed by the executive team in consultation with our division managers. It has been shared with our MAC and SAC teams as well as to all staff via a brown bag meeting we held last month. We recognize that the impact of our staff vacancies have been tremendous on our operations, particularly on the member facing side, but across all of our operations. And we wanted to inform you of our plan and the thoughtful consideration that went into its development. So Bonnie, can you please go to the next slide? Thank you. To set the table for the discussion, we thought it was important to highlight that there were several considerations that we took into place in developing the plan. First, we currently have a very limited number of staff in our human resources division that have that limit our capacity to administer our exams. Each exam, each classification has its own examination process based on the knowledge, skills, abilities needed to perform the specific jobs within those classifications. And in some cases, we have had to administer multiple exams within the same broad classification because of the desired knowledge, skills, and abilities, or KSAs, that and candidate experience that were desired due to the highly specialized nature of the classification or the job itself. Examples of that would include in our investment series and in our legal services. Some exams are very complex because of the highly technical nature, like investments or information technology, or because they have a wide variety of KSAs needed that need to be tested. And an example of that would be the RBS, while others are very straightforward. And lastly, in order to provide the very best service to our business users as possible, we have really looked at how we can leverage outside resources in order to achieve our goals. So that would include the use of temps, as well as using outside resources to help us in our targeting and recruitment of candidates. And an example of that would be the recruitment that we're doing currently for our Deputy Chief Investment Officer position. Next slide, please. Thank you. In the first 6 months of this fiscal year, we've onboarded or promoted 20 new staff members in 8 different divisions, as noted on this slide. And we also, in addition to that, have just completed a 3-phase assessment for our retirement benefit specialist classification. That's our largest exam every year. This includes it's evaluated in 3 different tranches for different skill sets, and we anticipate having 90 candidates on that list that should be promulgated imminently. The retirement benefit specialists also undergo robust on-the-job training. So we tend to lose staff through attrition throughout the year while new staff are going through this training program. And as a result, we've kind of stayed behind where we kind of maintain a certain number of vacancies, and that's been creating challenges for us in our member-facing services. So for that reason, we are looking at a new strategy this year to overhire but stay within our existing authority under our ordinance, which this allows us to look at our historic attrition rates and attempt to bridge that gap. So we think that this will make a big difference in how we serve our members in the years and get us out of this sort of perpetual state of high rates of vacancies within the retirement benefit class series. Next slide. This is familiar to you. This is reflects our current vacancies and as they're distributed across our various divisions. So you can see that systems and administrative services are particularly hard hit, but really all of these vacancies are hurting our organization across the board. Next slide. So this slide talks about our strategy. So given the gravity of the task and the considerations that we've just talked about, we prioritize our hiring plan into tiers. So tier 0 means we are actively working on these exams. Tier 1 means that they're on our immediate horizon over the next 6 months. Tier 2 is pushed for in the 7 to 12 month category. And then tier 3 would be greater than 12 months. So we've identified which exams fall within each of these categories, but I'm going to ask Bonnie to skip those and go to slide 22. Trustees, you have all of that detail, and we're happy to answer questions about it at the end of the presentation if you have specific questions. We want to also point out that this plan is subject to change. We recognize that it's a living document, that our needs across the organization are going to change. We also have limited capacity with our HR staff, so they are in our tier now. They are 0. We are working on actively filling those positions now so that we'll have the capacity in the next few months to really increase our ability to administer various exams in the future. And we also have a commitment to continuing communication and transparency, particularly to our staff. And toward that end, if you can go to the next slide, please. And then the next slide. So we are publishing our exam status. This is an example. It's published on our LACERA Connect, our internal intranet site, and it's updated monthly. And this is an example of it. This is not quite the most current version that's on their site, but it allows staff to identify which positions are in which stage of recruitment. So it lists all of our positions, the divisions that they're in, how many budgeted positions we have. And then if there's not a current list and we have vacancies, it indicates what the priority tier is. And then it will be updated to include who the exam analyst is and any specific status. And this will allow staff to anticipate their promotion opportunities that will be available to them in the future and prepare for those. And it also helps our managers and supervisors understand what's on the horizon so that they can fill their vacancies. They know kind of when to anticipate that will happen, but also to help ready their staff for the promotional opportunities ahead. So we are excited about this information. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have at this time.
Thank you very much. And are there questions or comments?
I had a quick one, Mr.
Mr.
Chair.
Knox,
Just
sure. Yeah.
less of a question, and it's something I just want to bring up every time we discuss this, is the number of IT vacancies are particularly troubling to me. And we can put things into categories and such, but until we see some real movement in that area, including at the top levels, I'll just continue to be concerned and express dissatisfaction with the pace that is going. Thank you.
Mr. Moore.
Yes, my question is for internal promotional opportunities. Is the process the same as an external person seeking the same position, or is there a streamlined process for internal promotions?
That's a great question, Trustee Moore. It is essentially the same process. So we follow the civil service rules that the county follows. That's required under SERL. And the procedure that we have is that there is some sort of assessment process. So exams can be promotional only, meaning that they are only available to LACERA staff. An example of that might be like a senior benefit analyst. But other exams would be open to staff or people from the outside. Those are called open and promotional exams, and that would be available to everyone. But whether it's promotional only or open and promotional, there has to be some sort of merit-based assessment that's done. And it's not a super fast process, as we've all experienced. That's frustrating, but it is designed to put controls in place to protect things like favoritism, and to allow for a more fair and equitable process. And then that also allows us to kind of expand our outreach to make sure that we are reaching a broad cross-section of candidates with varieties of experience, skills, abilities, and backgrounds.
Okay, so I'm just assuming that the internal process, the internal promotional opportunities, and that process should take a shorter amount of time.
They don't generally take, well, different exams are different. So some take a long period of time and others are shorter, but they don't take that much shorter for the promotional ones, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Any other comments or questions? Then thank you very much, Laura, for an excellent report. And good luck with the hiring.
We're going to do our best.
We know you will.
It's a big challenge for sure.
Thank you. Okay, we are on to item 4C. This is the fiscal year 2021-22. Again, we've turned it into an FYI. Are there any questions or comments? And now we're on to 4D, the annual quality assurance audit report. Again, I see Bernie's available if there are any questions or comments from the trustees. Seeing none, I want to thank everyone who put together the reports and was prepared to present. We really appreciate the information and we look forward to using it. So we are on to item 5, items for staff review.
I have nothing.
Thank you. Items for future agendas.
I have nothing there either.
We had a beautiful and rather lengthy good of the order at the main meeting, so I will just open up the floor for a minute if anyone has something they want to add. Yes, Mr.
So
Primer, please.
I unfortunately wasn't at the Board of Retirement meeting, so I just wanted to express my gratitude to Mr. Moore. You know that this is the last meeting. We'll see. Well, at least for this particular term. So I just wanted to thank you for your service to not only LACERA, but also to our members. And I'm looking forward to the next year. The change in the chairs, and I wanted to also thank Mr. Pryor for doing an outstanding job as the chair this past year. So it was a very nice working relationship that I had with him, and so he was always available. So I don't want to leave anybody else out, but looking forward to working with all of the trustees moving forward. We know that the hiring issue is of paramount importance to everyone. The IT in particular, we share your concerns, Trustee Knox. And so with that, I wanted to wish everybody a happy holiday or Merry Christmas or whatever, however you celebrate the upcoming holiday season. So Hanukkah, all that good stuff. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
And thank you to my staff as well.
Good catch, sir.
Yes.
Anyone else for good of the order? All right, then we have an executive session. Do we need to clear the room, Terry, or clear the Zoom room?